I will not tolerate such behavior. If you want to leave, leave now. But if you stand again, I will have you removed. Make your choice, then sit down or get out." Those words echoed across the House of Commons moments before security escorted the Prime Minister out of Parliament, an event unlike anything seen in more than 3 centuries of British democracy. Cameras rolled as the nation watched its leader dragged from the chamber, shouting in disbelief. The footage spread across the globe within minutes, leaving viewers stunned by what they had just witnessed. It began with just 7 words, spoken calmly by Nigel Farage, and ended with a political eruption that no one in Westminster could have imagined. What unfolded that afternoon wasn't edited, staged, or exaggerated. Every second played out live before millions of viewers, capturing in real time the collapse of authority inside Britain's most powerful room. By the end of that broadcast, one thing was clear: the United Kingdom had entered uncharted political territory. What happened inside Parliament that day may change British politics forever. It was Wednesday, 12:15 p.m. The House of Commons was filled to capacity. Cameras were live for Prime Minister's questions, the weekly showdown where Britain's leader faces a barrage of criticism from across the political spectrum. Members packed the green benches, the press gallery buzzed, and millions tuned in. Everything appeared routine, until a sequence of events unfolded that would shatter 300 years of parliamentary order. From the opposition benches, Nigel Farage rose to his feet. The Reform UK leader had come prepared, armed with leaked documents, immigration figures, and a single devastating accusation. Yet his delivery was deliberate, not dramatic. His tone was measured, almost surgical. "Mr. Speaker," Farage began evenly, "the Prime Minister pledged to stop the boats. Instead, this year alone, 45,000 illegal channel crossings have taken place, deportation flights cancelled, hotels costing taxpayers £8 million per day, and now leaked files reveal secret talks with Brussels to re-enter EU migration programs." Each sentence landed with precision. Faces tightened across the chamber. Labour MPs shifted uneasily while Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, sat motionless, jaw clenched. This wasn't the usual exchange of political theatre. It felt more like a prosecutor reading out a charge sheet. Farage pressed on. "The British people voted for border control and sovereignty. Instead, they received betrayal dressed as compassion. When will the Prime Minister admit these policies have failed?" The room fell silent. It was sharp, cutting, but still within parliamentary rules, until what happened next changed everything. Without waiting to be called by the Speaker, Prime Minister Keir Starmer suddenly rose from his seat. His face was flushed, his hand trembling as he pointed across the chamber. What began as controlled tension erupted into fury. "How dare you!" Starmer shouted. "How dare you lecture this government on compassion when all you do is spread hatred and division?" The air froze. Veteran MPs, men and women who had spent decades in the Commons, stared in disbelief. They had seen heated debates before, but nothing like this. This wasn't political passion. It was something raw, emotional, and entirely out of control. Starmer's voice rose further, echoing through the chamber. "You have no right to speak of British values when you've spent your career dividing this country. You are a disgrace to this House." Speaker Lindsay Hoyle immediately called for order. The Prime Minister will resume his seat and address the chamber appropriately. But Starmer didn't move. He stepped forward, his voice cracking, gestures wild. "This man has no right to question our policies when he can't even hold his own party together." That was the breaking point. Hoyle's tone sharpened to steel. "The Prime Minister will resume his seat immediately." Starmer continued shouting, defying the Speaker. Live on national television, the most powerful man in Britain was unraveling before the country's eyes. And then, something extraordinary happened. The Speaker rose from his chair. His voice was calm, but his expression left no doubt. This was about to become historic. "Standing Order 43, he declared. The chamber fell silent. "It's a rarely used rule, one that gives the Speaker absolute authority to eject any member of Parliament who refuses to maintain order, even the Prime Minister himself. The Prime Minister is directed to withdraw from the chamber immediately." For a brief second, Starmer froze, then he whispered, almost in disbelief, "You can't be serious." "I am entirely serious," the Speaker replied firmly. "This chamber will not tolerate personal attacks in place of reasoned debate. Security, please escort the Prime Minister from the floor." A wave of gasps rippled through the Commons. Camera shutters fired like gunfire. 2 security officers approached the Prime Minister. Starmer's eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but even his closest allies sat frozen, unable to meet his gaze. "This is outrageous," he muttered, but his voice had lost its strength. Step by step, the officers guided him toward the exit. His shoulders sagged. The weight of authority seemed to drain from him with every stride. And then, In a moment that would echo across the world, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom walked out of Parliament, not as a leader, but as a man escorted out like a disruptive guest. As the doors closed behind him, Nigel Farage stood once more, calm, collected, and cuttingly precise. This, he said quietly, is what happens when leaders can't defend their failures. They lash out, they break down. But the British people deserve leadership, not tantrums. The contrast was devastating. One man in control, one man in collapse. Within 60 seconds, the footage hit social media. Within 5 minutes, the phrase PM thrown out was trending across the world. And in under an hour, it had become the top headline on every major network, from CNN and BBC to Al Jazeera and Sky News. By nightfall, the numbers told their own story. Polling agencies reported a 15-point plunge in Starmer's approval ratings, particularly across Labour's northern heartlands. The reaction was brutal. Radio phone-ins overflowed with outrage. If he can't control himself in Parliament, one caller said, how can he possibly control the country? Focus groups described him using words like unhinged, unstable, and embarrassing. Even lifelong Labour voters began to waver. Meanwhile, Reform UK's servers crashed under the flood of new members and donations. By evening, Nigel Farage appeared outside Parliament at a hastily arranged press conference. His statement cut deep and clean. What we witnessed today wasn't simply a loss of temper. It was a loss of authority, credibility, and the basic composure expected of a national leader. The Prime Minister could have answered with facts, but he chose fury instead. Britain faces serious challenges: immigration, the economy, our future. We need calm leadership, not emotional collapse. That clip alone reached 50 million views in 24 hours, dominating headlines worldwide. International outlets called it a political earthquake. Behind closed doors, even Commonwealth allies began questioning Britain's political stability. Inside Labour headquarters, panic spread like wildfire. Emergency meetings were called within hours. Senior advisors scrambled to control the damage, but no one seemed to know how. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner reportedly told colleagues the situation was an embarrassment. Behind the scenes, potential successors, Wes Streeting, Yvette Cooper, and David Lammy, suddenly found themselves at the center of hushed conversations. The once unshakable confidence around Starmer's leadership was cracking fast. Meanwhile, the Conservatives, led by Rishi Sunak, seized the moment. Party officials demanded an immediate vote of no confidence, declaring a prime minister who cannot control himself cannot control the country. The statement dominated headlines. Political analysts called it the most serious leadership crisis in decades. Constitutional experts went even further, asking whether a prime minister expelled by the speaker could still effectively govern, and whether this incident had expanded the speaker's authority beyond its traditional limits.